Adam, if product design was a state of mind, you would be a Norwegian death metal band in a cupcake factory.
Yes, I would. Welcome to Engineer vs. Designer.
The podcast.
For designers,
engineers,
makers, bakers, and people who love fitness. I'm Adam.
I'm Josh. As always, we'll be making fresh product design pastries straight from the whipped cream butter of our esteemed guests.
Yep.
This week we have the great pleasure to speak with Steve Kamb, founder of nerdfitness.com, the fitness site marketed to nerds.
We will start with a design history lesson courtesy of SolidSmack.com.
Followed by a cool designery tip courtesy of cadjunkie.com.
Where I will attempt not to slap either Josh or myself with a spatula while we talk, but I can't guarantee
he does it all the
anything.
time.
I make no promises.
Then he cries about it while licking the frosting off his face.
Speaking of things that end in tears, Josh, dice the onion-like cavity of our ignorance with your samurai sword of knowledge. What have you got for us this week?
Well, this episode of Engineer vs. Designer is brought to you by the CAD Junkie.
Yes.
From SolidWorks to Modo to Rhino, learning CAD for industrial design just got a heck of a lot easier.
Mm-hmm.
For free membership, head over to cadjunkie.com. So, we've sent out another tweet for this episode. Anyone who retweets that message will be entered into a drawing for a coveted Engineer vs. Designer t-shirt.
They are coveted, all right, and people always get back in touch with us and say, I am rocking this shirt so hard today.
Yeah.
People
Last
love the
week's
shirts.
winner is Christian Harries.
Congrats, Christian. You could be next. Head over to twitter.com/EVD1 and retweet away.
Yep. And as you all know, we're talking with Steve Kamb of nerdfitness.com this week.
Yes, Steve is an online fitness guru with a knack for communicating to nerds, a.k.a. us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He regularly compares fitness routines and diet suggestions to video games and other geektastic pastimes.
CAD, anybody? Is there a CAD fitness routine?
Oh, yeah. What's up? Hey, we talked with Steve about everything from how he has gamified his life to his recommendations on Paleo Diet and fitness regime. Best of all, how designers and CAD guys can stay active while hammering through those CAD models.
You mean other than moving my fingers like lightning? Because I burn a lot of calories with those fingers, man.
Not so much.
They move fast.
But first, we're going to give you a quick history lesson on a topic we talked with Steve about, the Paleo Diet.
All right.
Ooh, uh-oh.
Yeah.
All right. So it all started out a long, long ago when dinosaurs were about as common as Toyota Priuses are today.
Often referred to as the caveman diet. The Paleo Diet, a.k.a.
Short.
Paleolithic diet, consists mainly of fish, grass-fed, pasture-raised meats, eggs, vegetables, fruit, fungi, roots, and nuts.
And excludes grains, legumes, dairy products, potatoes, refined salt, refined sugars, and processed oils.
Essentially, if a food wasn't available to dinosaurs and or, cavemen to eat.
Pre-agriculture.
Yeah, pre-agriculture, you don't eat it on this diet. However, how tight or loose you are on that diet is obviously up to you.
Oh, yeah. And despite paleo-style foraging being a popular lifestyle diet for early man, was first popularized in the mid-1970s by gastroenterologist Walter L. Voetlin.
Where it was then promoted and adapted by a number of authors and researchers over the next decade.
Then, in 1985, two researchers from Emory University, as it happens, published a paper on Paleolithic nutrition in the New England Journal of Medicine, which increased mainstream medical attention to the concept.
And then 4 years later, 1989, I'm 7 years old, Swedish medical doctor and scientist Stefan Lindeberg led a scientific survey of the non-westernized population on Kitava, an island of Papua New Guinea.
You don't say.
I said it.
These surveys found that this population did not suffer from stroke, ischemic heart disease, diabetes, obesity, or hypertension. The Kitava study has since generated a number of scientific publications on the relationship between diet and Western disease.
Since the end of the 1990s, a number of medical doctors and nutritionists have advocated a return to the so-called Paleolithic diet. And what's the best way to shop for paleo foods, Josh?
What's that, Adam?
Well, it is supposedly to stay on the perimeter of the grocery store. In other words, stick with that outer edge where all the produce and meat sections are, and don't go into the processed freezer frozen foods aisle in the middle.
The horror.
Yeah.
I am actually pretty hungry right now. I think I'm going to go grab a Snickers.
Restrain
that on the
thyself.
list?
Josh,
that on the list?
Josh, be a caveman. Eat your own arm. Eat it. Okay, Josh. So as everybody knows out there, we have this fancy new MakerBot Replicator 2 sitting here.
We do?
In the DC office of EVD Media. Yeah. And we also signed that up for Make XYZ, that really cool site where people can share their 3D printers so other folks can request to print things on them. Pretty cool.
Yeah. How's that turned out?
It's really neat. It's really neat. I've gotten a couple of calls from people, and 2 of the 4 or so people who've contacted me sent me models that are unprintable. I think most people don't realize.
For shame.
Yeah, I mean, clearly most people don't know how to make stuff, and so they're like, oh, 3D printer, I'll make something and it'll be magic, except it's going to have a 0.5 millimeter wall thickness and be all twisty and have no flat surfaces. So that's always tough. Also, I've found, as we've mentioned in previous episodes, I did find there is a pretty steep learning curve to figuring out how to print on this thing, how to troubleshoot it.
Even on the MakerBot.
Yeah. I found that it took me a good week to get to where I could even print anything reliably, other than the things that already come.
Just tweaking the extruder heights, leveling tables, stuff like that?
Yeah, right. I mean, obviously, you have to level the build platform and do all that kind of stuff. I found I had some loose pulleys when I first got it. That took me a while to figure out how to tighten those. Also, figuring out how to lubricate everything right. You do have to actually do that.
Oh, yeah.
But I think the biggest thing was also just learning how to design parts so that they can be printed. Yeah. So I've figured a lot of that out, and once you figure out some of that, then you can totally make stuff. But yeah. And then,
I've got a Leapfrog printer here, and I'm finding the same thing, that it takes some tweaking at first to get the especially the build platform level was one of the biggest things. But this is a dual extruder printer. So those...
What's that like? Tell me about the software for that. How hard is it to set up a dual extrusion?
Oh, well, it's not difficult at all through the software that's used. You can heat them independently or at the same time heat the build platform. But the most difficult thing I found about that is getting them both level. Where one's not knocking down what the other is built.
Oh, wow.
So it's got to be pretty level. And but besides that, I've had some mild success on small stuff, but the larger stuff, it's still need to tweak a few more things, it seems.
I'm getting better at it. I feel like I can print. For a while there, I was printing everything at a 100 micron thread size, where I was printing 0.1 millimeters. And it's so slow. It gets really good results, but, it just takes, everything becomes an overnight print, no matter how small, really. So I've been compromising and doing 0.2 millimeter thread height, and that gets a very similar result, but it's much faster. Anyway, I've been printing cool stuff. I've got stuff all over the house. Whenever people come over, it's pretty fun, and it's totally making us really popular at parties. People always want to come over and watch the thing.
Hey, that's the 3D printer guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Well, I'm sure we'll have more to tell about this adventure.
Absolutely. We're going to post some photos pretty soon. Yeah.
Cool. We'll have fun with the MakerBot. Anybody have tips on any of this stuff, please send it in.
Word up.
And you know what? I think we have some health-related stuff to get back to.
You know what? I'm not all about the health stuff, but the gamification of keeping myself healthy, that sounds pretty awesome. Go. So let's roll that tape. Steve Kamb, thank you so much for joining us today. Our first question for you is an easy one. If you could eat orange popsicles and excrete gold as a result of that, but in order to have that ability, your body would be that of a centaur, would you take that opportunity?
Dude, you had me at centaur. Like, doesn't That sounds
man.
awesome. Yes, absolutely. Popsicle. I mean, I don't see a single bad negative
no
in that.
downside
You get
to
to be a
that.
centaur. There's popsicles and gold. So that's 3 wins right there.
He's down with it. A centaur eating popsicles and excreting gold.
All right, we're going to work on that. See if we can make that happen for you, Steve.
Perfect. You let me know when the surgery will be. Let me up.
Okay, man. We're so anxious to find out more about nerdfitness.com and how it came to be. But first, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Who are you, Steve Kamb?
My name is Steve Kamb, and I'm a huge nerd. And I like helping people get healthy. Long story short, years ago, I got cut from my high school basketball team, which wasn't a surprise because I was awful and really weak and short and couldn't dribble with my left hand or play defense. So clearly, I had no business being on a basketball court. But I decided I wanted to get big and strong because that's what I thought you were supposed to do. So I went to a gym and proceeded to almost kill myself by dropping a weight on my chest while trying to do bench presses.
Right.
I think I put more weight on the bar than I weighed at the
Let's
time.
start there.
And had never worked out before. Just a complete idiot. So, but I learned over the next, 4, 5, 6 years after that, exactly how to not work out. Like I tried, I tried all the different supplements and I tried different workout plans, and I was like, I'm gonna get strong and healthy, and I did it the wrong way for 6 years, and then I finally found success, and I cleaned up my diet and really simplified my training, and I had more success in like 30 days than 6 years prior. So that's when the light bulb went off in my head and thought, geez, if it took me 6 years of struggling, how the heck?
Yeah.
If it took me 6 years, what about other people that are struggling with these same things and they don't have that place to go to? Like I didn't have that online resource to turn to, and I didn't know what sources to trust or what ads or magazines to trust. So, my journey itself was really this journey of me going from a complete newbie and not really understanding fitness and exercise and desperately wanting to know how, but not having anywhere to turn. And ultimately, that led to the creation of nerdfitness.com just a few years ago.
Now, of course, for you,
go ahead.
nerdfitness.com, when you just said newbie a second ago, you're spelling that N00 lowercase b, right? Now,
Of course.
But it's called nerdfitness.com, a very catchy name. I'm amazed that you're able to get it. It's just perfect.
No, right?
But I mean, let's face it, we know a lot of nerds. We are, I think, by many definitions, Josh and I are nerds, Simon's a nerd. Lots of people are nerds, but how do you define that word? Who is this site for?
Nerd's a tricky term. I think nerd honestly can apply to anybody that takes probably a incredibly passionate look at a particular topic or activity, almost to the point of being OCD or a little bit overboard with it. So, whether it's somebody playing video games or somebody that likes to build computers, or they're a bookworm, or they're a political science junkie, or they love sports stats or whatever. I think you can be a nerd in multiple facets and in every aspect of that word. So Nerd Fitness is kind of home for pretty much every different type of nerd under the sun. If I had to kind of break it down, I think the typical Nerd Fitness reader is probably some, when I picture it in my mind, I think it's somebody that sits at a desk all day long. They're somewhere between 22 and 40. They're probably a little bit overweight. Or actually severely overweight, anywhere in between, or maybe severely underweight. They can be as far as physically. That person that spends all day at a desk job, they're probably unhealthy, whether they're naturally thin or naturally overweight and have continued down that path. I think we're all kind of struggling for that same thing.
Right.
And whether you're underweight or overweight, you're that guy that spends all day at a desk and you decide for whatever reason you want to get healthier and you just don't have anywhere to turn. You're like, I don't know the first thing about getting healthy. Like, I know I should probably go for a run, so they go outside and go for a run. Or like, I know I should probably eat more of this and maybe less of that, so they try that, but they don't really have like that blueprint.
So it sounds like one thing I think is interesting about this. You define nerd in very much the same way as kind of the Japanese word otaku. That means like basically
right.
Extreme enthusiast.
Yes.
And it seems like what you're trying to do is take people's kind of OCD myopia and like channel that into being into finding ways of applying that to physical fitness. Would you say that that's true at all?
Absolutely, and I'm stealing what you just said and plastering it all over Nerd Fitness because that's a perfect way of explaining it. Honestly, for me, I was a huge gamer growing up. I loved specifically, I loved role-playing games Final Fantasy, Earthbound. Eventually moved on to games like EverQuest 2. Those are the super nerdy MMO RPGs that came before World of Warcraft.
The real deal.
And I felt the real nerds. And, there was even stuff before that, right. And before that, it was Ultima Online and things like that. But I fell in love with this concept of taking a character that was once weak and hadn't explored and hadn't done any of these things, and slowly but surely, step by step, like you have that little carrot dangling in front of you. It's like, if I can get to level 2, then I get a new sword, and if I get the new sword, then I can go kill this level 3 monster, and then when I do that, then I can go explore this new cave, which gets me a new shield, and etc. So I love applying those concepts and the addictive nature of why people fall in love with video games, or why they kind of lose themselves in comic book characters and stories and movies and things like that, and taking those reasons and applying them to encouraging and inspiring and motivating people to get off their butts, look at themselves as a superhero in training, and really, to pull the line from Nerd Fitness, level up your life. Looking at every day as a challenge. Yeah, look at every day as a challenge in some way that you can improve, and take those really, kind of OCD, obsessive compulsive things that you love, whether it's video games or books or whatever, and applying that addictive nature to improving how you live and the way that you look and how you feel about yourself.
Hence the tagline, level up your life. It's there on the site. You mentioned on the site that you quit your day job to start Nerd Fitness. This is something that a lot of people
that is a big
are
deal.
Interested in doing and are wondering how that actually happens. Can you tell us more?
Sure. So, believe it or not, actually, I was working a really great job when I had quit. So I had the idea for Nerd Fitness probably about 5 years ago, and I sat on the domain for about a year, and I got personal trainer certification and did some studying up and research, and really, kind of honed the message I was going to present. And then I started running Nerd Fitness part-time while still working my full-time job. So I would work all day long, and then I would go home from the day job, and I would spend 5, 6, 7 hours a day working on Nerd Fitness, writing articles, connecting with people on Facebook and Twitter, trying to build this little community. And after about a year and a half of running the site, I got to the point where the community was getting big enough, and my day job was getting incredibly busy, and Nerd Fitness was getting incredibly busy, that I knew I couldn't keep doing both things. Both of them were starting to suffer, and I didn't think that was fair to neither to Nerd Fitness nor to my day job, again, which I actually really enjoyed. I just discovered that my passion had really shifted, and that Nerd Fitness was, in my mind, the thing I was meant to be doing, and the community I was meant to be, kind of in charge of, and the path that was going to lead me down this, this place that would get me to the life that I'm currently living. So actually, when I quit my day job, I had yet to make a single dollar with Nerd Fitness, because I didn't have a single ad on the site. I hadn't offered any products yet. I just built a community, and I posted on the site and said, hey guys, tomorrow's my last day at my day job. I love Nerd Fitness. I love this community. I love you guys. I'm going to find some way to make this my full-time occupation, because I think I have something special here, and I know we have something special with this community, and I can't wait to be able to dedicate my entire life to it. So I'm going to put out my first, fitness product, which is an ebook. It was essentially like 6 months of exercise programming and diet advice and specific diet information, and the whole Nerd Fitness philosophy packaged in a couple of PDFs and a nice, ebook setup. And I said, hey guys, I'm going to put this thing out in the next month. Hopefully you pick it up, and it can buy me a couple months of income to focus on this. And if not, I'll pick up a side job and keep focusing on this until I find another way to make it work.
It's kind of like your very own personal Kickstarter project there.
Exactly. Yeah. And fortunately, the first month, I put it out and I expected to sell a couple copies, and I ended up selling way more than that in the first week. And I even had a bunch of people that bought it that said, dude, I don't even need this. I just love what you're doing, and I want to help out. And that blew me away. These people that had never met me before in person were willing to give me money for a product that they didn't even need, simply because they believed in the vision that I had and the company that I wanted to put together. So that was initially how it started. It was a very, very nerve-wracking first 2 months after quitting, but before that first book came out. And then it was just honestly a constant struggle and big-time hustle for a couple years until we put for another, probably about a full year until I put the second ebook out. And that's when I could stop worrying about, can I live day to day? And instead, how can I reinvest and really turn this into something special?
Still, that's not bad. I mean, a couple months to get you, on a place where you can concentrate on it, and then just a year after that, that's still impressive. And doing it all by yourself, I assume. Did you do all the site design content? You said the ebook, or were you working on all this yourself the whole time?
By the time I had quit, I had actually been running Nerd Fitness on the side for about 18 months.
Right.
So it wasn't like I started the site and then 2 months later I quit. It was about 18 months, and then I quit, and then about a month after that I put the ebook up. Initially, honestly, I did a very basic WordPress install, and I know nothing about programming. I am much more of a video game and bookworm nerd.
And you'd rather be doing that stuff too.
Computer programmer.
Sitting behind program.
Right, exactly. So, but I loved writing. So I did all the writing myself. As far as design goes, actually, I drew the Nerd Fitness logo back when I bought the domain on a napkin, and I handed it to a friend, and I said, "Dude, can you put this in Photoshop for me, and make it look pretty?" Because he was like a phenomenal artist. So he actually literally like designed it for me, put it up on the site, and the site was so basic, and I used that basic WordPress template for about 2 years, and then it was actually right before I began my big epic trip around the world, which we can get to in a minute. That a guy emailed me out of the blue and he said, "Dude, I love what you're doing, but your site looks so terrible. I'm going to redesign it for you for free because I love what you're doing." So great. The guy redesigned Nerd Fitness for free, and he actually ended up becoming a good friend of mine. And he, about a year after that, I asked him to redesign the site again, which is the current look of it. And actually, I told him I'm going to pay you this time, and I won't take no for an answer. So it actually it worked out pretty well. He literally emailed me out of the blue and said, "Dude, I love Nerd Fitness. I've been following it. I lost a bunch of weight, but your site looks like crap, and I want to make it look better." I was like, "All right, man, you got it. Run with it. I'm hop on a plane to Australia, so I'll take whatever I can get."
That is amazing. Now, according to the majority of the material on Nerd Fitness, it looks like you're a big believer in the Paleo Diet, Paleolithic diet, and workouts with minimal equipment. Could you expand on that a little bit and tell us what all that means and why you prefer those methods?
Yeah, absolutely. Specifically, I guess we'll start with the Paleo Diet. Paleo Diet is essentially trying to eat like the way we are genetically designed to eat. So the theory is that humans have been around, or relatively close to what humans have been for hundreds of thousands of years, and we learned to survive and thrive by eating certain things. And it wasn't until 10,000 years ago that the agricultural revolution happened. So essentially, the thought process is, we were designed to eat a certain type of food. And most recently, we started eating a lot of foods that kind of stray from that. And as a result, we are now getting heavier and heavier and unhealthier. So I honestly, the concept of it just made complete sense to me. It's like we're designed to eat one way, and we stopped eating that way. And now we're promoting things like, heart-healthy whole grains and having everybody eat their 5 to 7 servings of whole grains a day. And it turns out grains actually aren't that good for us. And it's a tough thing for a lot of people to hear, because everybody loves to eat bread and pasta and bagels and cereal and all these things. And it's like, well, it says it's heart healthy. It's like, well, yeah, Lucky Charms these days says heart healthy whole grains on it. Right. Clearly those aren't healthy for you. So, but aside from the science and physiological aspects of the diet and how it works and how your body essentially handles eating grains versus not grains, I think the reason this diet works so well for so many people is because so many people, specifically those that read Nerd Fitness, like we said, have very addictive personalities. And it's very difficult to eat just one of something and have any sort of portion control. So on this diet, it's very simple. It's like there's a certain number of things you can eat and a certain number of things that you can't. So what you can eat would be, you can eat meat, fish, eggs, vegetables, fruits, and nuts, and any combination of those things. And mixing them up and coming up with some pretty delicious recipes has me convinced that there's no reason that we cannot subsist and survive and actually do incredibly well on it. And as a result, through Nerd Fitness and seeing the success, I mean, I've seen so many people have just absolutely tremendous success stories with the Paleo Diet, and I think a big part of it is that it kind of removes that willpower aspect from their diet, instead of them having to say like, okay, I'm only going to eat half of this, meal, or I'm only going to have a handful of these things. And in reality, when you're eating, you're eating not healthy foods, those things, it's like you can't just eat one. You can't have just one cookie. You can't eat just a handful of goldfish. You can't eat
sure.
It's impossible. And you think of like what a serving of pasta is. A serving of pasta is tiny compared to the servings that you get served in your restaurant. So trying to convince yourself like, I'm only going to eat part of this, your mentality is, I am currently starving myself and withholding myself or withholding things that I enjoy from eating. Compare that to with the paleo diet. It's more like, I eat these things. I don't eat that. So it kind of puts the power back in your hands and says like, okay, great. Like I don't have to worry about calories. I don't have to worry about, I can eat as much as, I'm going to eat until I'm full. Like, and I can eat chicken and salad and all these things. And some people go full 100% into it, and other people go, they make one change a week or one change a month and shift into it. But I've just found it's tremendously successful. If you can stick with it. And I'm a huge fan of the 80-20 principle. So, or, like kind of 80%, I'll stick 80% paleo during the week. And then on the weekends, I'll drink beer and eat pizza like everybody else and watch football and play video games. And then as soon as Monday rolls around or Sunday night, get right back on the healthy eating train and not be any worse the worse for it.
Right. And so that's one half of this, right? And the other half is the physical activity, exercise and stuff, right? I mean, so tell us a little bit about that aspect.
Yeah, honestly, I wanted to remove every barrier that people have or whatever, any excuses people have for getting healthy. And a lot of people, it's like, I can't afford a gym membership, or gyms are too far away, and I'm sorry, I don't have a set of dumbbells, I can't do this or that. I have fallen in love with this concept of body weight training, and it's just using your own body weight to go through a routine that gets your entire body exercised, building strength, burning fat, feeling better about yourself, and you don't need any equipment. So it's something that you can do in the comfort of your own home or in a park. Yeah, in a cubicle. Heck, dude, in an elevator in between floors, like you're gonna get weird looks anyway when you're at work. Might as well get weird looks because you're eating right and exercising, right? Like, I can't tell you how many times I got made fun of when I had my day job for the way that I ate, or that I would work out when I was, we're on like a business trip and I would go exercise, and people would kind of poke fun of me for that. I loved it. Like, I wore that "you're a weirdo" badge like a badge of honor. I loved that I was the odd man out because I was eating right and being healthy. Like, I was okay with being, I wouldn't, not necessarily ostracized, but kind of teased for being the healthy guy. Like, that's, if I'm going to get teased for something, I think that's a pretty damn good thing to get teased for. Yeah. So going back to the fitness, just really basic stuff that you can do in your home: squats, pull-ups, push-ups, planks, things that you can do without any equipment. Obviously a pull-up bar, you need like a tree branch or a swing set or something to hang on, but generally you can find something like that anywhere. So other than that, I would say just, combining some body weight exercises with just shifting your diet even slightly towards eating foods that are less processed and didn't come out of a drive-through. You're going to be so much better off if you can continue to make slow, small changes and make those incremental, quote unquote, levels towards that future version of yourself that you're striving for.
You've had several very successful posts, a lot of page views. Which posts have been your most popular, and why do you think people are responding so well to these?
A big part of the reason why Nerd Fitness has been so successful, one, I don't have any ads in the site, so everything is done, when you show up to the site, there are no pop-up ads telling you to buy supplements or anything like that. It's more like, hey, here's some great resources for you. If you're interested, if you want to hang out and stick around, that's totally fine. If not, if you don't want to buy anything ever, but you want to keep reading, that's totally cool too. So it's a very non-threatening, very different, a kind of a big change of pace from, I think, normal fitness websites, which probably have turned off a significant number of people. So they stumble across Nerd Fitness, and they either find it through Facebook or Twitter, or they do a Google search for something. Like currently right now, if you search Paleo Diet on Google, depending on the day, we're anywhere between number 3 and number 5, specifically for that article, which generates, that brings in, I want to say 200, 300,000 people a month just to that one article alone.
Wow.
Which is crazy. And, it makes a lot of sense. Like, people are hearing about this thing and they don't know where to get started. And then they stumble across articles like, Beginner's Guide to Paleo Diet. Like, that's exactly what I'm looking for. So, some people find it through Google, and they stumble across the Lego photos that I use, or the nerdy references that I put in there. And it resonates with them because it takes this really complex, complicated, challenging, difficult topic of getting healthy and breaks it down into simple terms that people can understand. Like, one of my favorite articles, and one of the ones that resonated probably the best, or one of the best articles with the community. I did an article on walking, and in the article I talked about how I found a site where somebody had mapped out and done the distances for from Shire to Mordor, like the path that Frodo walked to. No joke, the path that Frodo walked to, to destroy the ring. And I created an Excel sheet on the site, and we broke it down into sections from like, from the Shire to Rivendell to Moria, whatever. And then like nerds could sign up through the website and they would go for a morning walk. Like that's all I asked. It was like, just wake up, go for a 5-minute walk, come back and write down your distance, and we'll combine all our distances and see how long it takes us to walk to Mordor and back. And
wow.
the nerds went crazy for it. They're like, this is the coolest thing ever. And it was fun that we were all kind of working towards it as a team. And it was such a simple thing. It was like, we're just walking. But when you can combine that with like, I'm not just walking, like I'm now walking with a purpose. Like I'm walking because I'm part of a team and we're working towards this goal. It made it so much more than it really was.
Now that is a fantastic example of gamifying your life, which is something that you do a lot of. I mean, you've done a TED talk on the subject. What are some other examples of how you've gamified your life and how other people could try to do the same thing?
Oh, this is fun. So back when I had quit my job, I had actually never traveled outside of North America. I had always wanted to travel. And like I said, growing up, I loved Legend of Zelda and I loved role-playing games. I loved being that character that then got a chance to explore this great big world that he had never experienced before and gain experience along the way and have all these epic adventures. It's like, now that my time and location's kind of freed up, why don't I just do that? Like, why don't, I noticed more and more I was leveling up a character in a game because life was getting boring. And the more I spent playing the character in the game, the less I wanted to spend time living in real life. So then I thought, like, why don't I just start thinking of myself? Why don't I start thinking about myself as that character and this world as the game? And I need to start providing myself with experiences to level up myself. So I put together a list on my site of all the things I wanted to accomplish and countries I wanted to visit and things I wanted to do. And it is extensive. I mean, there is a ridiculous number of things in this list. But, I didn't call it a bucket list like most people would, because I didn't think that sounded nerdy enough. And I was like, well, if I'm going to gamify the hell out of this thing, like it's got to have a cool name. So I called it my Epic Quest of Awesome.
Nice.
And it's my way of leveling up myself as a character in this world. So, I turned each continent into a video, into a zone. So like North America was my starting zone, and Africa was the desert level, and South America was the jungle, and what else? Europe was like the old castle part of the world, and then every time I could cross something off of my list, it gave me 20% experience towards my next level. So every time I crossed 5 things off my list, I gained a level. So I started a big trip back in December of 2010 where I literally sold all of my stuff and put my laptop and a couple changes of clothes in a backpack and traveled around the world for about 2 years and ended up crossing like 40 things off of my list.
Wow.
And so at 40, 50, so now I'm at the point where I'm up to level, I haven't looked at it in a couple weeks. I think I'm up to level 10 or 11. With a couple more things coming up that I'm looking forward to crossing off the list. But as a nerd that like gets really addicted to what's next and that thing that I'm working on and what's next, it's a struggle for me to just kind of, and I'm still working on it, but just kind of existing in the moment. It was always fun for me to have that checklist to work on, that next level to work towards, that next experience to have.
Can you summon the Kraken yet?
I just put down a whole bunch of no, not yet. But I did spend a weekend living like James Bond in Monte Carlo, which was probably the most amazing.
Dude, I love this, and I love the entire concept of this. This is so meta. But like, so I don't know how you're going to feel about this, and definitely how your readers would feel about this idea. But do you ever wonder if maybe like the people in your community are kind of like your Sims, and that's another game for you? Like you're kind of leveling them up at the same time in a way.
Honestly, I never looked at it like that. I looked at it more like I'm not like the guy in the front and everybody's following me. It's more like I'm in the community with them and we're all struggling for the same things. Like I still play, I spent way too much time this past weekend playing God of War and loved it. And, then I had to convince myself to get off the couch and go work out. So, it's not like I am this, I don't see myself as the, kind of the guru dishing out information. It's more like, hey guys, I happen to be the guy that's in charge of this community, but I'm struggling and I'm in the trenches with you, working on these same things. Like I love being a nerd, and I love everything that comes with it. As a side, I've also found a way to stay healthy and be happy with my life and have self-confidence and all these things. And I'd love to share some of that stuff with you. And I hope that you guys can in turn help each other, and we can all kind of work together to help each other, get to that quote unquote level 50 version of ourselves that we're striving for.
To add to this concept of gamification for fitness and life in general, I don't have one of these, but what are your thoughts on the latest fitness tracking device craze, like the Nike Fuel, or there's the Jawbone Up? Do you think they're actually helpful? Do you use one?
Great question. Actually, I do have a Fitbit, which is pretty cool. Honestly, like I use it, but a lot of times I forget about it too. Like I will notice sometimes, like if I do remember to wear it, and I'm very kind of scatterbrained, so when I do remember to wear it, and I will notice, look down, like if I've walked like 9,000 steps for the day, I'm like, I want to get to 10,000. Like I'll just go for a quick walk or walk around my apartment. So I think it definitely works. However, I think what's most important, and I think unfortunately a lot of people do this too much, and whether it's with a gadget or if it's they decide they're gonna, there's a trend where you just blend everything and you drink your meals, so it's like they call it juicing, quote unquote. I think if you put your time and energy into kind of like these gimmicks, and I'm not saying they don't work, I think they definitely do, but I think you need to combine the gimmick with also focusing on addressing the initial issue at the habit, at the center of why you're unhealthy or what it is. And a lot of it is habit building and addressing the issues why you want to start being healthy or why you make the decisions that you do. If you can start addressing those things and then using something like a Fitbit or a Nike Fuel Band to help you build those habits, I think it's great because, it does provide you that positive reinforcement, that positive feedback loop. But if you just focus on this one thing and then all of a sudden if it breaks or you forget it, you just skip your workout for the day because you're like, oh, I didn't bring my counter and I don't know if I'm going to walk 10,000 steps or not enough, so I'm just not going to walk at all.
Oh, right.
Then it kind of misses the point. So I think it's important to kind of combine using that with also just your own, focusing on building your own willpower.
Well, and how does
learning
how does that
building.
play into the fact that I believe you're also developing a game right now, an app called Rising Heroes. Tell us a little bit more about that and how that's different from, say, your Fitbit.
Well, I think Rising Heroes is, again, same thing. A big part of what we want to combine, what we do with Rising Heroes. So essentially, what we're trying to do is we're trying to take the addictive nature of World of Warcraft and combine it with fitness and exercise to encourage people to get off their butts and go work out and outside. I think there's already some of these things out there where you work out and you track your workout and it gives you experience points, and it's kind of a little bit of a vanity metric. But you get to see something level up and definitely positive reinforcement and positive feedbacks. I think a big thing that we want to incorporate in ours is not just, that positive there, but we also really want to incorporate something that's far more important to me, in my opinion, and that's the power of community. And I think that's part of the reason why Nerd Fitness has been so successful. We really want to look at this like an MMO, and you'll pick a character class, and you might be a warrior if you want to lift weights, or you want to be a scout if you're going to go for runs or biking, or you're going to be a monk if you want to do martial arts. And then we're going to combine all of this with a kind of a cool epic backstory and education that then provides you with not only the workout that you need to complete, but also a community to pull from and those positive reinforcements. So, I think a Fitbit is great. I think this is just kind of taking that to the next level and combining a few other things that are going to help you develop and build those habits that you're interested in turn, along with also helping you, address the issues that might have got you in the place that you were before and getting you to the place that you actually want to be.
I love that idea, and I would absolutely buy one of those over any of those other products, actually. So much more interesting. And, we've had a lot of Kickstarter designers on the show in the past. We love the idea of Kickstarter. Do you think, are you going to start this on your site? Is there going to be a Kickstarter campaign for the app? How are you going to get it out there?
That's a great question. So actually, we did almost like a Nerd Fitness type Kickstarter last summer, and saying like, hey guys, like I'm funding this myself. I don't want venture capitalists breathing down my neck, and I don't want take out bank loans and have them coming after me. Like I want this to be our project. So that way we can make decisions based on what's going to be best for the community, best for the game, best for us. So we ran like a Kickstarter through Nerd Fitness, and had, hundreds of people make donations, and as a result of the donations, they get into the beta test, and then they also, provides them with a certain amount of time to continue playing the game once you actually make it available. Nice. So we actually have about 200 people beta testing it as we speak, and an interest list of about 1,500, I think, maybe 2,000 people waiting to get in on it. So we're actually going to be doing, I think, another round of, hey guys, looking to get some more beta testers in here with this game. What's important to me, and this is something obviously certainly controversial, but something I'm a huge fan of, and I feel pretty confident in the decision, is that it is going to be a for pay game. It will not be free to start. It'll be one of those things where you'll pay a monthly fee and you'll be a part of it. And the reason I'm doing that is because I didn't want to end up in the situation where you have a whole bunch of people used to using something for free, and then all of a sudden you have no way to monetize it, and you have to start sticking a bunch of ads on there, or you have to start promoting crap that you're not interested in. As we saw with Nerd Fitness's April Fool's post yesterday, right? Taking things away from people after they've had them and telling them that they then have to pay for it.
Take a step back. Tell us about your April Fool's joke.
So I wrote an article on April Fool's, which I guess was yesterday, saying that Nerd Fitness had been acquired by a health food conglomerate, and as a result, I had to move to Scranton, Pennsylvania. And
what'd you sell it for?
And we were gonna develop a series of infomercial products that we were gonna sell in QVC, and initially started and it's the name of the company that I used. I pulled straight out of Arrested Development. And one of the supplements we were promoting was the supplement that Tobias Funke wrote about in Arrested Development. I put in there my new parent company ran a focus group of people that had never seen Star Wars, and they determined that the term rebellion was too controversial and might alienate people that are against alternative thinking. So instead of calling the nerd fitness community the rebellion, will now be referred to as the fun fit group or something. Right. And I initially started, and initially, no joke, I thought I was being way too obvious with it and people wouldn't get it. I had hundreds and hundreds of emails and hundreds of 500 comments in 7 hours or something. People saying dude, you had me going the entire time. I had people email me saying F you effing sellout. I can't believe you ruined the one thing that that was great about nerd fitness and everything. And I was heartbroken. I was this poor guy thinks I just ruined his life. I'm dude, it was a joke, man. Look at the bottom, read the PS, or the fact that I sold it for $5,000 in a DeLorean. Come on, dude. It was a joke. So, and after emailing all these people back, it was pretty funny, but it was amazing to see how passionate these people were about changing what nerd fitness had become, this really supportive, engaging, open community. So I wanted to be open up front with these people and saying look guys, I didn't want to get a bunch of venture capital, hire a bunch of programmers, create something and then flip it for a profit. That's not my focus here. Instead, I want to create a really high quality product that has a consistently evolving, growing storyline, quest paths and items and community and challenges and duels and all of these things. And in order to do that, in order to make that happen, these things aren't free. I want it to be done in a way that you guys feel comfortable and confident in making that investment. So, that's the conversation I'm currently having with the 200 people that are in the process of beta testing it. What other features do we need to add at this moment that we can, until we can get to that point? And what other things do you want to see in there? So, obviously a different path than the Facebook, Twitter model of let's make it free and then figure out how to make a bunch of money on it later. I didn't want that headache. Instead, I think I would rather be let's just make something that's awesome that people are willing to pay money for. And maybe, we do something the first 10 levels are free. And then after that, you have to pay or there are other various ways that we can do it. But I want people to know up front that look, this is, I'm running a business and we're creating a really high quality product that you guys are going to be interested in. If you're not interested in it, that's totally fine. I still write 2 free articles a week and there are free message boards in Nerd Fitness. But if you are interested in being part of this really cool program and this cool story and having a really fun adventure and looking at life like a video game, we're here for you, and we'll find a way to make it reasonable and affordable.
I think one of the things that's so interesting about this whole new economy that we're seeing kind of taking off right now Kickstarter is the poster child, but so many people like yourself are tapping into user groups directly and building these communities. And in a way, I mean, it really does make this so much more personal. You know, the fact that you're not an anonymous company making something for some anonymous profit is a very different kind of value proposition. And I just think, is this fundamentally changing the way that we think about consuming, the way that we think about ourselves and how we interact with the products we buy?
Absolutely. Honestly, I think it's almost like a blast to the, a blast from the past. Like back in the day, you knew who, way back in the 30s, 40s, 50s, you knew who your butcher was.
Right,
you knew
right.
who your grocer was. You went to a certain grocer because he knew to have these certain things ordered for you. Or you went to buy your shoes at the cobbler because he, you worked with him on some previous project or something. And there's actually a great book out there on this exact topic that I absolutely love by Gary Vaynerchuk called The Thank You Economy. And I read that and it just it really resonated with me. And it just made me think like, yes, it's kind of taking that old mom and pop, Dollar General, know the people around you and know who you're buying from and bringing it back, but in an online space. And I think that's why Nerd Fitness has been, I make sure the site is very personal, very personable, and I'm very upfront and honest with everybody. Like, look, guys, this is an ebook. Yeah, it's going to cost you money, but I'm fairly confident it's going to get you results. And if not, like, send me an email and I'll refund 100% of your money. Like, you could go to Nerd Fitness, buy one of our ebooks, and then return it, and then keep using it. And because it's a digital product, there's nothing I could do about it. I would gladly refund your money if you keep using it. Like, all right, I guess you scammed the system. My return rate is like 1%, which is unheard of considering it's a digital product. Like, it's because I think people really trust and respect what I'm trying to do and the community that we built and the 4 years of trust and the things that I've built up over this time. Goodwill and all those things, I think it's carried over to these things where people are just actively rooting for the community to succeed. And if they're interested in supporting something, even if they don't want it, they're still willing to make that investment because they believe in what we're doing, which is just mind-blowing to me.
Well, let me actually jump in real quick. One more question from me. I mean, because this is kind of a little bit more personal. I sell a digital product as well over at CAD Junkie. And, this is something I've dealt with over the years, and I've come to similar conclusions to you. But I remember when I first found out that lots of torrent sites were had all of my stuff, all the stuff I was trying to charge money for, and that I'd put my blood, sweat, and tears into. And then rather than like ask me for it, people would rather just go and get it from somebody else anonymously. It hurt me, personally. It wasn't like I was worried about the financial aspect of it. It's like, if you asked me for it, I would give it to you for free. It's just like, why do you have to? I want to build that community. I want to build that connection with people. That's why I'm doing it. So why do you have to do, this anonymous side of it? Does it ever bother you at all when people pirate your stuff, or is that okay?
Yeah. Honestly, I would say if I said no, it doesn't, I'd be lying. But at the end of the day, some people just feel it's their right to not pay for certain things, and if they happen to use my ebook that they didn't pay for and it helps them get really healthy, maybe they then tell their friends that ebook helped them, and their friends then tell somebody, or their friends buy it. So yeah, and that goes back to the whole music piracy thing and how, and all that good stuff.
Right. I don't want to get into that whole big debate. Obviously
it's a tough, heavy debate, but I definitely hear what you're saying. And in my opinion, if somebody's going to do it, it's unfortunate. Clearly, obviously, we put a lot of work into what you're doing. At the end of the day, though, you can't really focus on those people. You just try to take care of the people that are doing it honestly and treat them well and treat them with respect and provide the best value you can for them. And in my opinion, and in my experience,
that's all you can do.
That's all you can do. That carries forward, things tend to work out. Good guy wins at the end.
Okay, Steve. What everyone has been waiting for now as designers, CAD guys, engineers, we sit in front of the computer all friggin' day, and if we're not in front of the computer, we're in front of the TV playing games,
some other glowing rectangle like that. Somewhere else.
So, what are some of the best ways to keep our minds and bodies alert and maybe some exercises you would suggest to do at the desk or at home in our free time.
Sure, great question. So obviously, I'm not a big fan of like the walking desk. I mean, I think that's a decent option, like the treadmill desk thing. Yeah. Or
my
like
brother had one
specifically
of those.
sitting at your desk.
He built one, actually.
Yeah.
Crazy.
That's, and it works for some people. Personally, I kind of like to keep my exercise and my nerd time separate. Obviously, and obviously I get super nerdy when I'm leveling up with my exercises, but I mean like, not combining the two. In my opinion, I think the best thing that you can do is, one of the things that I've done recently and specifically is to install a program called Focus Booster on my computer, or Focus Timer. What's it called? I can't remember. Anyways, it's this little timer that sits
like
in the corner of my computer. And every 15 minutes, yeah, exactly, same thing.
Yeah,
every 15 minutes
booster.
reminds me to get up and I go do a lap around my house, drink some water, crank out some push-ups, and sit back down, and just, keeps my spine and everything in much better shape. As far as workouts go, best advice I would say is to, if you head over to Nerd Fitness, I have a beginner body weight routine, and it's something that you can do in your own house. You don't need any equipment. I think if you have like a suitcase or a milk jug, you can to do one particular exercise. Everything else is body weight focused. Focus on getting a little bit stronger and building a habit of fitness. And if that's waking up every morning and the one thing that you do is put on a pair of shoes and go for a 2-minute walk, or drop down and give 10 push-ups when you first wake up in the morning. The activity itself is somewhat important, but actually what's more important is the concept of building this habit of, I am getting healthy, and I have proven to myself that this is something I can actually focus on every day. So whether it's walking or going for a hike, or doing push-ups when you come home from work, or right before bed, or first thing in the morning, just some sort of physical activity, something that you wouldn't have done otherwise, that you can then look back and say to yourself, I did that and I've done it every day for the past 3 weeks. Okay, now that we've built this habit, how can I expand on this, and what are other things that I can increase and improve? And I have all sorts of free resources and stuff over at Nerd Fitness that can help you on that next step. But yeah, I think just building that fitness habit to begin with is just super important. Otherwise, you're going to give up at that first side of adversity, unless you have taken the time to build some momentum and get yourself thinking on a daily basis, this is something I need to be doing.
Fantastic advice. Steve Kamb, talking to you today has been even better than that time Josh and I tried to run a marathon after consuming 3 gallons of whole milk and a bucket of Pop Rocks. Thanks so much for being on the show with us today.
Oh, man, tell me you guys got some footage from that. That sounds like a lot of fun.
Dude.
Thanks, guys. Hey, I really appreciate it.
So that was not a bad interview, Mr. Mings.
Not bad at all.
Not bad. In fact, Josh, having Steve Kamb on the show was even healthier than that green smoothie you poured all over my face this morning.
Delicious. If you'd like to send me a better smoothie recipe, address it to Josh. I will blend it like there is no tomorrow.
I could use some of those recipes myself. We want to hear from you. Let us know what you think, what you'd like to see on the show, and your favorite variety of kale at EngineerVsDesigner.com or on the EVD, YouTube, and Vimeo channels.
And if you'd like to see us keeled over, puking in a pool of our own sweat after a long run, be sure to like us, +1 us, tweet us, or whatever else us, as social media has been correlated with uncontrollable leg cramps and sweaty gym clothes.
Has it? Has it really? This show was edited by the masterful Simon Martin. If you love our taste in music and want some added auditory mojo to help propel you through the workday, be sure to check out our new playlist every week on SolidSmack Radio, Tuesdays at SolidSmack.com.
There you go. We'll see you next week. And remember, without engineers, designers would be blending smoothies with a swizzle stick.
And without designers, engineers would be blending smoothies with a power drill.
You know
Actually,
it, man.
That sounds like a good idea.
You know it.
I'm taking that idea.
A production of EVD Media.